How's it going, YouTube? It's been quite a long time since I've made a video, so I thought I would start off with this in a reboot. I used to have a Desert Eagle 50 AE. What you see before you is what I traded for. This is a Smith & Wesson X-frame, and it is not a 500. It's better. It's the 460. The 460 is ballistically superior than the 500. It's flatter trajectory. The multi-cartridge capability is by far one of the biggest advantages over the 500, similar to a 44 Magnum that shoots 44 specials as well, or 357 Magnum that shoots 38 specials, or something along those lines. This, however, can fire the 460, the 454 Casull, the 45 Long Colt, and I believe it'll even fire there's two other cartridges that are a lot less known of, that are even shorter than a 45 Long Colt that it'll all shoot. But basically they're all just long and short versions of 45 Long Colt. We'll start off with some cartridge comparisons here. 380 auto. So this is a 357 Magnum. What used to be the Mac Daddy, the 44 Magnum, 45 Long Colt. This is a 200 grain FTX. This is a smoking monster. This is 2,300 feet per second. This is mean. Very, very mean. The bullet just explodes when it touches anything. And this projectile right here, this particular cartridge, produces pressures similar, almost identical to what a 308 would. Say 308 Winchester. This is a pretty high performance round. I mean, it's not a Magnum round, but it's a hefty 30 caliber shouldered case, 42, 44, 45 grains of powder, somewhere in that neighborhood, depending on what you shoot. So this is a heck of a round, but I mean the pressures are enormous on shoulder cartridge rounds compared to a lot of your straight walls. But this creates the same almost identical pressures as this does, which is why you have to have such a beefy cylinder, a beefy frame, and that's why it does the job. That's why this has got, I believe I read, 200 plus yard confirmed kills, maybe even further, because it's so fast. It retains a lot of energy. It has a really good trajectory for a revolver, and it more than likely didn't happen in this barrel length that I have before you. This is a 8 3/8. The longest of which I believe is 14 inches. So this is, in my opinion, this is the best looking one of them all. Plenty good enough to plink with. You don't have the gigantic barrel with the compensator, the big break, like the Canon stuff you'd see on a 50 BMG. And it doesn't have bipods or anything like that. This is still handleable, and it still does quite well. So I'm gonna put this up back here, and now look how much of a jump that was. I mean, this is similar to 450 Marlin Magnum as far as length, probably 45-70 as well. And then I'll jump to my last 460 cartridge. This is a Federal 260 grain, I believe. So there's you some comparisons. Remind you, this one, and this one will all drop right in here, and I'll show you. This 460, 460, 45 Colt. The only difference is that usually when you shoot your multiple cartridge guns like this, you would want to shoot your longer cartridges first, because eventually you'll get a burn ring inside, inside of the cylinder, because the round in the shorter, the 45 LC, you can imagine, only goes to there, whereas the 460 pretty much goes clear to the end. And it's just a good practice to shoot your longer stuff first, in a 357 mag or a 44 too. And so anyway, this is the 460. This is what I traded for, and I really like it. I've gotten it to shoot, and I know it'll shoot better than this, but I've gotten it to shoot about 4-inch groups at 100 yards off of sandbags with this factory ammunition. I haven't gotten the dies yet, but I plan on loading for it, and I'm sure that it'll improve a little bit. The scope is a Weaver scope. I believe it's a 4-power, because I bought this as you see it here. It didn't have the rear sight. It already had this this mount already on it, because you have to remove the rear sight to put this mount on. That way you can scope the pistol. There's also 2 different muzzle brakes. There's this one here, and then there's a different one that comes out even a little bit further, and it has different ports. And it's for leaded projectiles. It's I guess uncopper jacketed projectiles. I have yet to make any rounds, like I said earlier, but I plan on loading some low powered 45 LCs or some high powered 45 LCs even, you know, because you could load the hot 45 LCs that you would only want to shoot in 454 Casuls or lever action rifles. Say this will do the same thing. This will shoot hot 45 long Colts that you would not want to shoot in your designated 45 long Colt revolvers that aren't rated for, like, say, plus P, or you know, the older ones might not be able to handle that because of the cylinder isn't as beefy, the frame isn't as beefy. But anyway, I will say that the recoil on this is very manageable. The compensator does a very fine job, and the grip, I'm sure, does a good job. It's the factory Hogue, you know, rubberized grip here. I mean, it feels all right, but it, in my opinion, this bad boy needs some wood on it. It serves a heck of a good function because of its comfort, but I think a piece as fine as this deserves to have some nice wood furniture on it. So I might spring one of these days for somebody to cut me some really spiffy grips, and when that day comes, we will make another video and show you what it looks like. Like I said, this is the 8 3/8 barrel, and when I shot it off of sandbags, the recoil, you wouldn't want to handle this as, you know, as a young person. It still has a significant amount of recoil, and I mean, I'm not a little guy by any means. I've got really big hands. I'm 6.5 feet tall. I'm 265 or 75 pounds. I mean, this is not a cannon to me. One more thing, because of this compensator, I don't know, but it cannot be much other than this, but the loudness, the severe volume of these big rounds going off, the big 460 rounds. I mean, I recommend earplugs and earmuffs. Earplugs aren't just enough. I mean, they're enough to be safe, and the same goes for this. These are even worse, I think. I'd rather have earplugs, some good earplugs, than just earmuffs. These aren't good earmuffs by any means. You know, these are cheapies. These alone don't do the job, and really, these don't alone do the job either. You need both, and you still feel like somebody thumped you in the chest when you shoot this revolver, because it's a monster. You should see the fire. The fireballs that this thing creates is a spectacle in itself. I was able to capture some blast coming out of the barrel and coming out of the side of the cylinder where the fire comes, you know, from the gap where the forcing cone is from the leading edge of the cylinder here. The blast just, it's enormous. But it's still very manageable. And this is no slouch as far as slinging large projectiles. The biggest projectile I've been able to find online is they make a projectile, a hard cast lead projectile that has a gas check at 395 grains. You talk about a monster. Here's a comparison of this 460 to my carry gun, which it's clear. This is a M&P 40. So this right here, the 40 cal. And you'll notice the overall length is as long as the barrel alone. And this is a full size. This makes it look really small. And it's only a 5 shots. It's the same exact everything like the 500 is. Same cylinder, same everything, same barrel frame. It's just chambered in a 45 caliber and not a 50 caliber. So in the 500, the holes for in the cylinder where the rounds rest would be a little larger, approximately about a 1/16 larger. And obviously the barrel diameter, you know, down the bore would be a little larger. Basically, it's the same thing. And it's got one hell of a good trigger on it too. I mean, that was maybe 3.5 pounds at most. I felt $1,000 rifles that had worse triggers than this. And I believe that the trigger is why this revolver shoots so well. I encourage you to shoot one if you have a chance. It's a little bit on the expensive side to shoot, so all you hand loaders out there, if you're interested in getting into 460 or the 500, especially the 500, it's going to be a lot cheaper for you to hand load for this. And it's worth hand loading for it because of the precision that you got. You've got something that's capable of very, very good groupings, especially when you have optics. With open sights, I still don't feel confident. Like say in a deer hunting situation, I wouldn't feel confident placing a shot any more, no more than 100 yards, and I'd have to get practiced up real well with a 100-yard open sight, you know, shot with this particular fire, or any revolver, for example. But with a scope, you increase the ability a lot, and it's worth having precision ammunition to shoot in such a high performance revolver, because it demands quality to really show you how well it can shoot. I don't really shoot factory ammunition very much. I bought several boxes, but mostly because I didn't have the brass. The brass will be put to good use, and it performs well enough for me now to deer hunt with, and it did. I have a photo I'm going to show you of my first handgun harvest ever, and it was with this revolver back in the fall 2015. I hope that gives you a little bit of incentive on the damage that this cartridge can do, because as you can see from some of the photos, that it is incredible. And that was with the 200 grain. It was a fairly close shot, but still the damage is there, and I would believe that it would still perform like that at even longer distances, much longer, you know, 100, 150 yards would still produce an incredible amount of damage to tissue of deer and, you know, hog or whatever you might be hunting. So with that, I'm going to let you listen to some tunes, and we'll see you next time. So have a nice day, y'all. Peace.